On March 1, 1976, William Bradford Bishop, Jr., a star employee of the United States Foreign Service, viciously bludgeoned to death his wife Annette Catherine Weiss, his mother, Lobelia Amaryllis Saint Germain, and his three sons, 14-year-old William, 10-year-old Brendan, and 5-year-old Jeffrey. It was a murder that no one saw coming, one that had no apparent motive and a culprit with no history of violence that seemingly vanished into thin air after killing his whole family. What could have compelled this well-respected, well-liked professional to do something so utterly brutal? Today, we're going to piece together a timeline of his life and reconstruct the night of the murders to attempt to answer that question, and look into a recent groundbreaking revelation that completely changed the nature of the case. But first, we must take a look at the man Bishop was before he became a monster. Bishop was born on the 1st of August, 1936, to Lobelia Amaryllis Saint Germain and William Bradford Bishop Sr. His family was well off by all accounts, which meant that Bishop had the perfect childhood in the beautiful city of Pasadena. A wealthy family meant that Bishop had strong connections and access to amazing opportunities no one else would have had from the get-go. However, it also made him feel like he needed to prove himself. Families with generational wealth expect each generation to grow the family fortune. Bishop grew up upper middle class, and he'd be obsessed with maintaining this image for the rest of his life. Of course, he had every chance to obtain the skills required to stay in the upper crust. A naturally intelligent and talented boy, Bishop showed an immediate knack for learning languages. He seemed to have a keen interest in studying other cultures, something that would set him up nicely for a career in the Foreign Service. Bishop's career was moving along nicely. In 1974, he was promoted to Assistant Chief in the Division of Special Activities and Commercial Treaties and asked to come work at the State Department's D.C. headquarters. By the way, I post true crime and new cases here every day, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing. It helps a lot. Bishop was not the type of person who liked to sit behind a desk. From the very beginning, it was clear that he wanted to be off abroad, immersed in a new culture where he could flex his knowledge of languages. Whether or not the move to Africa disturbed him, having to come back to Washington may have been even worse. This is all speculation, of course, but one can imagine that a person like Bishop would become a ticking time bomb over the course of the next 2 years. What he wanted, more than anything else, was to maintain his upper middle class lifestyle. And with the kids growing up and William Jr. approaching college age, Bishop felt that his career needed to maintain that exponential growth he'd seen early on. Unfortunately, things were not shaping up how he'd hoped. After his promotion to Assistant Division Chief, Bishop waited and waited for a promotion that never came. He'd moved his family into a home in Bethesda, Maryland, and his return to America meant that his mother Lobelia could come stay with them as well. Raising 3 kids isn't easy, and Annette must have been happy for the help. How Bishop felt about it, we may never know, but based on how things ended, it's possible that he resented his mother's presence in his home. Sources suggest that Lobelia frequently criticized Bishop for his lack of career progress. Day by day, the tension grew. Financial difficulties started seeping into their lives. Bishop's government salary just wasn't paying the bills as easily as it used to, and it's possible that he had to rely on his mother for financial support. This would have felt absolutely emasculating to a man like Bishop. His colleagues report that he'd become quite irritable in the office. He talked about how he was getting passed over for promotions he deserved, and he seemed to blame everyone for this but himself. There was a sort of belief that Bishop held, a belief that he was better than everyone else and deserved to get to the top as fast as possible. Making Assistant Division Chief at 38 years old might not have seemed that impressive to him. Perhaps he thought that he should have achieved more after over a decade in the Foreign Service. All of these things likely played in his mind as his thoughts slowly drifted towards homicide, along with a few other factors that only came to light much later. An analysis of Bishop's personal diary revealed that he had a lot on his mind during his 2-year stint in D.C. He complained of having trouble sleeping, for which his psychiatrist reportedly prescribed him the sedative called Serax, which didn't seem to be working. Or at the very least, it wasn't really helping him go to sleep at night. It bears mentioning that missing a few doses of a benzodiazepine like Serax can cause serious and sudden mood swings. It can cause severe agitation, which can be made even worse by pre-existing difficulties in life. Since the Serax didn't seem to be affecting his insomnia, it's possible that Bishop stopped taking it and ended up becoming emotionally volatile in the aftermath. With sleepless nights taking their toll, Bishop also talked about suffering from chronic depression. This, too, was something that medication failed to resolve. Other events in his life also contributed to the emotional storm that was brewing inside him, a storm that would take him to the most brutally violent depths imaginable. For one thing, some reports suggest that there was an IRS audit on the horizon. This means that there were major financial irregularities in Bishop's tax filings, which must have added fuel to the fire of his personal life. Between his mother's constant criticism about how he wasn't moving up the ranks and his own frustration at being stuck behind a desk, Bishop likely wanted to escape however he could. He set his sights on a possible promotion that would send him back abroad, but this created further tension with his wife. Annette didn't want to keep traveling. She wasn't like Bishop in that respect. And there's also a chance that his controlling nature made it difficult for her to actually enjoy being in a different country. It's been reported that she'd started studying art at the University of Maryland, something that Bishop was very unhappy about. He wanted Annette to be a stay-at-home mom, to look after the kids while he went off and played the hero in the Foreign Service. With her youngest child now 5 and her oldest fast approaching adulthood, Annette might have been looking forward to taking a less hands-on role as a parent and doing something for herself for a change. The presence of Lobelia also made this a possibility, but this meant that Bishop's control over his family was slipping. There's perhaps nothing else that a pathological control freak fears more. And then on March 1st, 1976, he found out that the promotion he so craved, the promotion that he hoped would fix everything, had gone to someone else. All hope of escaping the desk life, an increase in his salary, and proving himself to his mother evaporated. Shortly after hearing the bad news, Bishop told his secretary that he wasn't feeling well and that he'd be heading home early. On his way home, he made a stop and purchased the tools he would soon use to murder his family. The last time anyone saw Bishop was outside the State Department building in D.C.'s Foggy Bottom neighborhood. His colleague, Roy Harrell, reported that Bishop seemed agitated, but saw nothing to suggest that he was out for blood. Bishop's movements aren't clear after leaving his office, but police know that he emptied out his bank account at some point. The reported amount ranges from a few hundred to a few $1,000s, but either way, this just shows how little Bishop had to his name. After withdrawing the cash, Bishop likely headed to a mall in Bethesda, where he purchased a ball and peen hammer and a gas tank. He then went to the gas station next door and filled up his car tank as well as the spare tank he'd just bought, after which he visited a hardware store and bought a shovel and a pitchfork. He arrived at home between 7:30 and 8 o'clock that evening, hammer in hand. Police were able to determine that he killed his wife first. She might have been in the kitchen preparing a meal, or perhaps she was in the living room enjoying some downtime after the boys had gone to sleep. Wherever she was when Bishop returned, we know that she was likely in the front hall when she died. Detectives would later find blood in this area, along with the upstairs bedrooms. It's possible that she put up a fight, but it's more likely that she never saw the hammer coming. Bishop coldly bashed his wife's brains out and then waited for his next victim to come home. Lobelia happened to be out at the time walking the family dog. Did Bishop time his arrival based on his mother being away? It certainly made it easier for him to kill Annette without causing too much noise, and the way he plotted his subsequent actions indicate that the murders were intricately planned. On the other hand, it's possible that he was just improvising. The violence he committed certainly doesn't indicate that he was of sound mind. Lobelia soon came home and met the same fate as her daughter-in-law. Bishop slammed the hammer into his mother's face repeatedly, until she died. The boys were asleep this whole time, indicating that Bishop may have killed Lobelia after taking the dog elsewhere. Otherwise, its barking would have woken them up. William Jr., Brendan, and Jeffrey were all in bed when their father walked up the stairs, clutching the bloody hammer that he'd just put through the skulls of his wife and mother. The one comfort we can take from all this is that all three boys were still asleep as Bishop brought the hammer down on them. They died peacefully, or so we can hope. What does a man do after committing such an evil act? It's impossible to imagine, but in the case of William Bradford Bishop, he acted coolly, calmly, and completely without emotion. He took the 5 corpses and placed them in his car, which he then drove nearly 300 miles to North Carolina. The trip would have taken him all night, and by the morning of March 2nd, Bishop dug his family a shallow grave in a swamp near the town of Columbia, tossed their corpses in, covered them with gasoline, and set them ablaze. With the deed now done, Bishop was free to make his getaway. After burying and burning his family's corpses, Bishop headed to Jacksonville, where he bought tennis shoes at a local sporting goods store. This is where the story starts to get more mysterious, because witnesses say that Bishop wasn't alone. He had a dog with him, and some say he was accompanied by a so-called dark-skinned woman. The owner of the store, John Wheatley, stated that the woman looked like she was from somewhere in the Caribbean, and that she was wearing an elegant dress. They seemed like a lovely couple to the store owner, who described Bishop as polite and calm. Whether he was with this woman or not, Bishop's next stop was the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, where his car was found on March 18th. A witness stated that the car had been there since at least the 5th, indicating that Bishop had driven for 2 or 3 hours a day as he slowly made his way to the park. Once there, he joined the sea of hikers walking along the Appalachian Trail and was never seen or heard from again. As Bishop drove to Jacksonville, the smoke created by his family's burning corpses alerted Forest Service workers in the area, and Forest Ranger Ronald Brickhouse was sent to investigate. He found the family's smoldering remains along with a shovel, with 2 corpses reportedly facing each other. Their identity remained a mystery until March 10th, when a concerned neighbor phoned Bethesda police and informed them that the Bishops had been absent for quite some time. Police arrived and found the blood on the porch, front hall, and bedrooms, and soon identified the Bishops' bodies through dental records. By the time Bishop's car was found on March 18th, he was long gone. Police tried to track his scent along the Appalachian Trail, but it was no use. He'd always been an athletic man that loved camping outdoors. These skills ended up helping him get a massive head start. Bishop remains at large to this day, with the FBI removing him from their top 10 most wanted list in 2018. He's presumed to either be dead or hiding in plain sight somewhere in the U.S. Other sightings have placed him in Switzerland and Italy, but none have been confirmed. No one knows for sure why Bishop did what he did. However, in 2021, a new revelation in the case confirmed both Bishop's history of secret extramarital affairs and the identity of a previous unknown child. Kathy Gilchrist was 18 years old when the Bishop family was murdered. In fact, she was being crowned the beauty queen of the small Massachusetts town she called home when Bishop was disappearing into the Smoky Mountains. Why is this relevant to this case? Because she was Bishop's daughter. She'd always known she was adopted, and she only found out about Bishop when she started digging into her past to discover her biological parents. She was born before any of Bishop's other children, but considering she was born a year before the wedding, he was definitely dating Annette at the time. Not only did this prove that he cheated on Annette multiple times, it also showed that he might have had a motive no one expected. Had Annette discovered his illegitimate daughter and confronted him? Is that why Bishop killed her and escaped? And what about this mysterious woman that accompanied him during his escape? The answers to these questions may never come to light. So, what do you think of this case? Do you believe Bishop was planning the murders all along? Or was it a spur-of-the-moment decision? And what role did his secret daughter have to play in all of this? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.